I do hope that those of you who can come here, that don't live too far, will join us. I do believe that you needed to fill out a form, but I'm sure that if you didn't, and you tell Rabbi Temler in time, and we clear all the hoops and issues to make sure that you can be here, that we would love to see you. It's going to be a great program, stimulating learning, and a lot of good food. I mean, that's what I was told. I'm not in charge of the food. The last time I checked, the food was good, and certainly worthwhile for that alone to come. So we encourage everybody to be here, and if you're not able to be here, I hope that you're able to go somewhere, your local shul probably, or Beis Medrash, and participate in learning. How many of you anticipate doing that tonight? Somewhere, going to an organized place where there is learning and being part of that. Wonderful. That's awesome. Okay, gentlemen, I got a couple of questions for you. Time is short, but let's focus if we can. How many of you have been at a, let's say an appointment, have had some kind of thing that you needed to be at, which was really, really important? Could be a meeting, could be an interview, something like that where you really needed to be there. If you want to tell me what it was, keep your hand up. In other words, if you're willing to share what that thing was that was important to you, it could even be a ball game, but whatever it is. Yes, please. Yaakov Meir. Soccer tryouts last year. What time were soccer tryouts? Do you remember? Don't remember. Approximately what time were they? In the afternoon? Let's say 4 o'clock. Okay, what time did you get there? Tryouts were at 4. Were you there by 4? You were early. Okay, how many of you have been to an important meeting and were early to that meeting? Okay. Ari, tell me about it.
Baseball practice.
Baseball practice. Anything that's not sports. Let somebody raise their hand. Wow. I guess that is the only thing of significance. Moshe.
I went to lane at a shul, not local.
Laning in a shul, not local?
Yeah.
Yeah. And why was that so important?
It was important because they needed somebody to live there.
So you did the laning. Oh, so as the ball coach. If we can maybe keep the door closed. Thank you so much. Okay, Daniel.
Getting the paycheck.
Really? Oh, we need to go where Daniel's hanging out. I'm not sure where that is. Okay, so we see the importance of going on time to wherever it is we need. 8th graders, please come all the way forward. Find empty seats. Okay, now let me ask you another question. How many of you see the significance of a name? I'm not necessarily talking about a personal name, because sometimes you're named after a relative, or sometimes you're named after when you were born, or something like that. That name, we don't necessarily know if there's a deep connection. Once upon a time, Chazal tell us that those who named had Ruach HaKodesh. They were able to see something about the quality of the person, and the name reflected that quality. I don't know if that's still true today. But let's think about the name of a place, or the name of a company, an institution, something where we see that the name relates to that entity. You had your hand up? Can you think of an example? Yes, Chaim Zev? What's that? Be'er Sheva. So you're thinking about an incident in the Torah which ultimately resulted in the naming of that place. Very good. Aidan, what are you thinking?
Colorado Rockies.
Okay. What are you thinking, Chesky? Yitzchak. Why are you thinking of Yitzchak? Okay, because of her laughter. Okay, great. So we have two things that we've talked about for the 8th graders who are coming in a little bit late. Just to let you know where we were so far. We talked about number 1. What was number 1? Who remembers? The idea of if you have an important thing to attend, you want to get there on time. The 8th graders who've been interviewing, let's say for Masifta, either locally or elsewhere, you need to be on time. The last thing you want to do is walk in late and make a negative impression. And we talked about the importance of a name. So let's apply that to Shavuos. Now, can anyone tell me, let's start with the second point. What does the name Shavuos mean? What does the name Shavuos mean? Shua, help us out.
Weeks.
Weeks. Is that what you're going to say? Is that what you're going to say? Weeks? What are you going to say? Weeks also? Okay. So let me ask you a question. Why do we call Shavuos, first of all, it's one day. So it'd be awkward to call it. If any yontif should be weeks, maybe I would think it's a yontif that's 7 days long. Maybe. Pesach. Why would we call Shavuos weeks? Seems like a strange name. Seems like a strange name. David? Because we count 7 weeks before. So I'll ask you the obvious question, or maybe you could ask me. What's the obvious question, gentlemen? I count 7 weeks before, so I name the Yom Tov weeks. Do we name Pesach Makos? Would that make sense? Right? We had 10 Makos leading up. Finally, we get to go out of Mitzrayim. But we don't name Pesach after the process, even though Pesach really represents the last Makkah. It does. But we don't name it after the whole process. We name it after maybe the thing that ultimately resulted in the Yontif. Is that fair? Okay. So why call Shavuos by a name that doesn't seem to relate to the essence of the day? What's the day of Moshe Yitzu? What's it all about? Shavuos is the day of Kabbalah HaTorah. Zman, who can help you out? Matan Torah Seinu. So what does that have to do with Shavuos?
Because we look forward to it and we can resolve something later on.
Okay, so Chesky wants to say because we look forward to it and because we're counting all the way through. That's a very important point. Moshe, what did you want to add?
I wanted to say Shavuos, the point, like there's no real set date for Shavuos. It just comes 7 weeks after Pesach.
Okay,
So it could be that's what it's called.
I see. So in other words, it actually reflects how we get to the date.
Yeah.
Interesting, nice idea. So you guys have a lot to say, and this is really, really helpful. What I wanted to tell you is as follows. If, let's say, just for argument's sake, you were on a deserted island for the last 7 weeks. Somebody picked you up on the second day of Yontif, of Pesach, and just magically put you somewhere. You had no idea of what was going on. You kind of lost any sense of that we're between Pesach and Shavuos. And then that same entity picks you up again and drops you back here this afternoon. And you really weren't involved in any counting. How do you think that that might impact negatively your readiness for Shavuos? Was the question clear? In other words, if you weren't part of any counting whatsoever, you didn't realize that there was Pesach on one end and Shavuos on the other end, you kind of like la-di-da, whatever I'm doing. And all of a sudden now, I show up and here it is, it's Shavuos. No preparation. What difference would it make? Why do you think preparation is important, gentlemen, as we think about Shavuos? Anyone here in the front? Any ideas? Okay, so let's go right to it. The idea, gentlemen, simply is, because we want to be Makabel the Torah properly, if we want to receive the Torah of Hashem, we need to be ready. The Torah of Hashem is a very unique gift. It's not the kind of thing, if I give you a pack of baseball cards, you don't need to be ready for that. You can just accept it and enjoy it, and it's something simple. But to receive the Torah, we're talking, gentlemen, I want to be clear, about the most precious gift we've ever received as a nation, and the most precious gift we've received as individuals. That requires readiness. And that's why we call it Shavuos. Because we have spent 7 weeks, week after week after week. Each week represents something whole by itself. And then you have 7 of them, and then one more day. That's the preparation, the process of getting ready for this very special day. I want you to know, I was looking this morning at a sefer to also explore the idea of the name of Shavuos and one other thing. And I found another reason as to why Shavuos is called by that name. Shavua is not only a week, but if you add a hey, Shavua is a promise. It's an oath. HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we entered into a treaty, into a pact, into a relationship with a promise that we're going to receive the Torah and we're going to keep it. Nasa v'nishma. And all of that entails. And so when we talk about Shavuos, we're talking about the fulfillment of a promise. And of course, it's difficult to fulfill a promise if you don't ready yourself. So I think the two names are deeply connected. So we talked earlier about this idea of having an appointment and coming late for the appointment and what does it look like. So imagine, I don't know what this means, but imagine an entire nation of 3 million people oversleeping the day of. Oversleeping. Whatever that means, exactly how much they overslept, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to come and wake them. If I knew, you would think, and I don't want to say this really because I don't want to suggest that I'm any better, or much, in a much lower level than those members of Klal Yisrael standing on our Sinai. But you would think that if you knew that the following morning that you're going to be standing around a mountain and hearing directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how can you sleep? How could you do anything but other than to focus and say, is it time yet? Is it time yet? I know, I'm guessing, that when the 8th grade went on their graduation trip, that there were some of them waking up an hour and a half earlier than they needed to. Is it time yet? Are you ready? Couldn't even sleep. So excited. That's an excitement. So the idea that however we understand it, that Klal Yisrael was a little bit lacking in their energy, in their enthusiasm. That's why we spend the night tonight learning. Because we're trying to recapture that energy. I really should be going to bed. What's the big deal? But I spend the time and I'm drinking my Mountain Dew or my whatever else, my energy drinks, to make sure I've got all the energy I need so I can spend the night focused, energized, and reconnecting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is our job. And so whether you come here or whether you do it in your shul, I encourage everybody minimally to do something extra, to spend some meaningful time learning and encouraging others to do the same. It shouldn't just be we get together like a social event. That's not what it's about. It's about recognizing that thousands of years ago tonight, all of Klal Yisrael, millions of people, stood around and heard HaKadosh Baruch Hu's word. And those millions of people made a connection and a commitment and a promise. And that promise is something that we, their children and grandchildren, great-great-great-grandchildren, till today, maintain as our values. And that was the guarantor. Hashem said, what's going to guarantee that if I give you the Torah, you're going to keep it? They said, Avraham Avinu and Moshe Rabbeinu and David HaMelech and all of them. Hashem said, not good enough. Ultimately, what did Hashem accept? The children. That's what Hashem accepted. We are those children. And our children, Hashem, will also be those children. It's a Masorah that transmits from one to the next. So gentlemen, let's keep that idea in mind. And with that enthusiasm and energy that I feel, and hopefully all of you as well, we're going to transition now to this week's drawing.